evening TV. How did I get delivered here? Somebody tell me please. Cause this whole world is just really confusing me. Clouds as mean as you've ever seen. Ain't a bird that knows your tune. Then a little voice inside of you whispers, kid, don't sell your dreams so soon. Everywhere you look, everywhere you go, there's a heart, a hand to hold on to. Everywhere you look, everywhere you face, somebody who needs you. You're lost out there and you're all alone. A light is waiting to carry you home. Everywhere you look, la 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 la, la 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 la.
Jeff, we are the goodwill ambassadors on the trail. You didn't have to bail out that far. We would have never hit you. No, the only reason we would hit you had a dog with you.
Oh.
If you didn't have the dog, we'd have gone right for you.
You get 20 points or something?
I get 30 points.
But they're on the rock.
But then I get negative if there's a dog involved. You know, that's why I stay away from the dogs.
Always have one.
Yeah, always have one.
He wants a lift. He would like a
Yeah,
ride
look at
the
he
rest
look
of
like
the
he
way.
wants a ride. He's like, okay, wait a second. You guys have a good one. Be safe. Now, right here where this red post is, that's where all these people pretty much are hiking to. That starts the Devil's Bridge trailhead right out there to the right. Now, if these people actually were walking on the hiking trail, it comes right out here. They just got to cross the road. They get a lot less dust. He's on a mission. I find it's best to just stop and let them go.
Yeah.
Yeah. You like that, huh? Okay.
I like that.
So when I do that, I'm giving you more for your money when we cover more ground. What do you think, Jeff? All right.
It's almost better when you go faster.
No, that's no.
It's less bumpy when you go faster. You go through it.
I appreciate you coming out the first time I've ever done this.
Jeff.
Well, I feel okay because Jeff's told me he's done it many times. Piece of cake, right? So you guys actually from the Boston area, like a suburb or something?
Yeah, about 20 miles outside.
Where? What's the name of it?
Millis. No one in Boston knows what Millis is, but it's below like Framingham.
I had a great aunt that lived in Marblehead.
Nice section. Right
That
on the
was-
water.
It was a long time ago.
That's
She was my mom's aunt.
That's a big sailing.
sailboat people.
It's a high rent district there.
Yeah, her husband was an artist. She she might have done some artwork too. I don't even remember his name now, but it was when I was a little kid that you heard about him. You gotta be loose.
What kind of tires does this thing have?
Metal to steel. They're 10 ply. Do a good job. You usually don't get a flat in the tread. It's usually a sidewall. If you're going to get one, like a sharp rock kicks up, goes in the side.
Are we prepared for that?
Are we? Yeah, I have no spare.
Just call it over now.
That's what the radio's for. Call the mechanics and they come out. They do it. The idea is not to get one though. It's a lot more fun without it. I knew we'd find you.
You knew where I was going, didn't you?
That's right.
I know where you're going too.
Are they nice?
Yeah.
So far? Okay.
You're so nice.
But they only
You're
bought
going to
it.
be jealous with how nice we are.
But they only bought the one-way ticket.
Well, that's what I was hoping. You know, I like to hear the screams late at night. She thinks we're kidding.
See, he's got a
You're probably coming back, aren't you?
Oh, for sure.
Look at her. She's got a death grip on that pole now.
That's right.
She's not leaving. She won't get out of the Jeep.
Right.
Have a good one, guys. Now, right here,
Man, whoa.
a little gorge down in there. It's actually a fault line. So if we stay here long enough, we could have a mini earthquake. But I doubt it. We get them very small here and very few and far between. But this is a mini fault line. Many hundreds, millions and millions of years ago, this was a very active place. Now on my right, which is interesting, you see that cave way up on the side of the hill there?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Up in there, there's a Anasazi Indian room. It's about 3 rooms. This area is loaded with them. They were all, they figure, vacated by the late 1300s.
And what chased them away? Look at how the water level was.
No, had nothing to do with water back then. They climbed up there. They were up there for defense purposes. It's one of the mysteries on why they actually left. But they left a lot of areas. Now the Pueblos in northern New Mexico and in Arizona, they say they're their descendants, the Hopi and stuff.
Yep.
If you hike out here, I hike here almost every day. There's Indian ruins up here in every canyon. You'll find them if you want to go looking for them. They aren't all that obvious, like a cave. Sometimes there's this little overhang. And they're in various stages. Sometimes you just see the outline of the walls. Sometimes you see partial walls. Sometimes they're pretty well preserved.
What do they look like?
They're like very well stacked rocks in there. And they're just like rock wall rooms. So they have small doors and windows. And usually in the top, a lot of times you'll see black from the old smoke. They didn't live that long. They lived to be in their early 30s because they used the smoke, but it didn't go out, so they had smoke inhalation.
Yeah.
And they also, when they ground their meal and all, their teeth were all ground down by the time they were in their 30s because of all the little grit in their grain from the stones out here.
Grinding down stone?
No, they get the grain, but they grind it with stones. And so you'd have some grit in there a lot, which would wear their teeth down. And they didn't have baseball or football or anything like that, you know what I mean? So actually they got to be around 30 and they gave up on life because they were like, there's no football. You know? Come fall, they were just harvesting, getting ready for winter. There's no bowl games, there's no football.
The The Eagles probably hadn't won in 30 years, so they decided to commit suicide, probably.
Yeah, that could very well be. Actually, it was like 57 or 58 years. 1960 is the last time they won. They were the only team ever to beat the Vince Lombardi Packers in a championship game. I don't know if you remember the name Chuck Bednarik, Concrete Charlie. He's a Hall of Famer. And it's funny, I had a guy in my Jeep last year that was very good friends with him for many, many years. And when he died, and they'd go out places and he would say, Chuck Bednarik, an all-star. And he'd go, no, Hall of Famer. I mean, he was proud of that. But he was the last of the Iron Men. In that championship game, he's starting center and starting middle linebacker. He never left the field. Now, there was a story about Bednarik one time, and he didn't have a high opinion of the modern players. He thought they were babies. You know, they get a hangnail, he said, and they're out, you know, in the Indian reserve list. But he, one time, he came off, he pulled a bicep muscle at the top, and it was hanging down like a slab of meat. He comes hobbling off the field, and he gets it, and the trainer watches him, he goes, tape it. He missed one play. I mean, it's a different entity. Of course, you know, he's probably making $8,000 a year. Nowadays, with somebody like a Brady, you know, they got $20 million a year involved. That's a bigger investment. They're like, no, Chuck, sit down on the sideline. We're going to fix that, you know. Different world back then. Getting a good core workout, right?
Have you ever had anybody say, watch out for that thing back there?
Yeah. Actually, I have.
It's almost escaped my mouth.
You almost couldn't help yourself. So instead of saying that, you framed it into a question. I like that.
So that technically wasn't the best.
It wasn't. I wasn't doing anything.
But she was thinking very hard about it.
This stuff used to be a river.
Well, actually, it still is a wash. When I first moved out here in the 80s, about a year after I was here, read an article in the Arizona Republic where they said, per capita, Arizona had one of the highest drowning rates. And I'm sitting there going, what are they drowning in? It's a flipping desert, you know? These washes kill people all the time.
Just get a flashlight. Out of the way, truck. Remember this car?
Where are they going? There's got to be maybe a trail.
Well, there's hiking. You can hike anywhere out here.
Nice.
Want to keep them awake. That was a good idea you had. You know, Jeff's got a lot of good ideas.
You called an audible, Mike.
That's right. I was going to take it easy and he just went and hit it. Have they been nice to you on this trip? Okay. So far they might come back. Okay, but it could change, right? Okay. If you were going to leave one behind, if, would it be
Think
Mom?
carefully.
Dad? Brother? How come I knew that might come?
You didn't give it much thought.
No, there wasn't much hesitation there, you know? Very slight, and then it was gone.
Did we get a vote? Yeah, we're relieving you. Democratic.
Well, the one thing good, see Jeff, I have the veto power,
Yeah, okay.
and once you're in the cockpit, you're definitely coming back. See? You get a free pass. See, we're starting to put a beach in for when California falls in. We're getting ready. You're up in the Bay Area, is it?
Yeah.
I like Northern California much better than, I mean, I like San Diego, but I don't like LA.
Yeah, likewise. Actually, I like it all. The Bay Area is the best.
San Francisco is a beautiful city when you look down at the bay and the Golden Gate Bridge and all.
This is where animals come to drink. I suspect.
Oh yeah, believe me, they know where all the water is.
Off the road riding experience. It's awesome. Right.
You weren't expecting this?
No, I really didn't. I don't know. Nothing like it. It's awesome. But I would also know that I wouldn't. I don't think I'd hop in a car with somebody who says, "Let's go do this," unless I knew that they. This is pretty awesome.
Jeff and I drive with our eyes closed most of the time, so. You know how we steer with our eyes closed when we're driving? It's by their screams. See, when they scream, we just turn the wheel. If they scream louder, we know we went the wrong way, we come back with it real fast. You know? How are your Red Sox going to be this year?
Boy.
Yankees will be good, so there'll be a rivalry again.
Yeah, which is good for baseball, I think. I prefer the Red Sox beat the Yankees, though.
Us too.
I bet. Well, being from Philadelphia, you know, the Philadelphia Boston, if it has an NY on it, we don't really care for it. We, when I was a kid, I remember the '67 Sox with Jim Longborg was your pitcher, and Carl Yastrzemski and all those guys. I always really liked that team. So I liked all your teams in the World Series. I wanted you guys to win every time you were in there, and for those many years, Game 7, you guys would always get to Game 7 and couldn't win it. And then 2004 came along.
You bet. Yeah, that's right.
And then you had good old Kurt Schilling and the bloody sock.
The red marker.
Yeah.
It's fake.
No,
Oh, I know.
no, players, they said, fast enough.
I want you all to know, Jeff climbed that hill, not me. I closed my eyes. He took over. Right?
God. Don't take a left.
Yeah, that's a big drop off.
Oh, look at that.
Nice.
We're going to get out here. I'll take some photos of you if you'd like.
Excellent. It's the halfway point.
Yep. Through the 70s when the Apollo missions were going, there was astronauts up there practicing all the time. Okay, we better get out of the way. Pearl's coming. Come on this way, Jeff. She's going to probably pull around either right behind us or right next to me. I'm not sure. Either way. You're still hanging on to that same bar.
You're darn right I am.
Beautiful, isn't it? Walk back here and we'll see the cabin.
Hey, Ken.
He'll catch you. He'll catch you. What's you guys' last name there?
Ah,
What nationality is that? Irish. Yeah, I'm Irish. I figured you guys were probably, you looked Irish, but I was like, okay. My name is Michael McShane.
Irish.
Yep. And, you know, oh, like Boston still have a lot of Irish Catholics, you know. If you ever look at the history of the Irish in this country, you know, the English treated the Irish horribly. We were like slaves to them. And just so you think, you know, the Irish came over to the New World and really picked themselves up by the bootstraps. They were probably very happy when the English were no longer controlling them.
Exactly.
They're probably like, okay, we're going to America.
Exactly.
We're not going to Canada. The Queen and the King still are running that, you know? Yeah. This is called the Van Dern cabin. Now the history of this cabin, you guys remember in school, you remember the Homestead Act? No? Well, the Homestead Act was signed into law in May of 1862 by Abraham Lincoln. Now Abraham Lincoln, at the time Congress ratified, is during our Civil War. The idea of the Homestead Act was a lot of the immigrants coming from Europe, like our ancestors, they couldn't own land over there. Only the aristocrats owned it. That's why, if you ever notice, the Irish always went to buy land. They came over here because they weren't allowed to really own it, you know? So how do you get on the move from Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and Chicago to come out? Because we have this big continent to settle. The promise of free land. That was a big deal. The fact that you could come out here and claim and get 160 acres that was yours didn't cost you anything. Now there was a string attached to it, which was a good string at the time. You had to prove it up for 5 years. So you can make the claim on it and it's temporarily yours. A government agent or inspector is going to come out in 5 years. If you were farming, you best be farming. You need to have a house, the accoutrements of farming. If you're a cattle rancher, cows out there and everything else to go with it. This was homesteaded in 1924. Now what was going on in our country in the 1920s?
Just coming out of the Depression, right?
No, that was the 30s were the Depression.
Okay.
The 40s, the Second World War got us out of the
Okay.
Depression. The teens was the First World War. What weren't you allowed to have?
Who's?
Yeah, Prohibition.
oh, Prohibition, sure.
Well, the guy who homesteaded this was Bill Fredericks. His nickname was Whiskey Bill. He's a moonshiner. Well, you can imagine he homesteads this. You have 5 years. Now, I could assign it. Say if I was the original one and I'm 3 or 4 years in, I could give it to you and assign it. Then it's yours, but the clock doesn't reset. Okay? So, Bill Fredericks is out here making whiskey. And he realized that he's never going to get this homestead because he's living in a tent, but he's got 7 stills going. And he was very well known for his whiskey. People came, I met 2 of the Prettyman girls. They're dead now. They were in the 80s. I say girls, they were in their 80s when I met them.
Yep.
But they used to come here as young girls to get, they said, guys, they rode horseback up the 60-mile circle to come get his whiskey because it was so good in the area. He knew how to make it. So he realized he's not going to get it. So he's about a year left on it. He writes a letter to his young nephew, Earl Van Dern. Well, Earl's a teenager, and we all know teenagers know everything. They can do everything, right?
Right.
We've all been there. We knew that once, right?
Yeah.
So he writes a letter to Earl and he goes, you have less than a year, you got to do all this, you got to build a house. Well, no problem, I can do this. Earl shows up about a month or two later with about 150 head of cows, about 30 head of horses. He's in the cattle ranching business. The problem was the cabin. You can't cut a tree and build with it the next day because it has to season, it has to dry out, right? So he finds this cabin here on the right, 4 miles north in Sterling Canyon. It's abandoned. He knew who built it. You got to realize back in the 1920s, there's hardly anybody living here.
Yeah.
He goes into the cafe in town, Jesse Purdyman. The daughters, I told you, were his daughters that used to come out here later in years to get whiskey. And so comes into Jesse at the cafe and he goes, "Do you have a cabin in Sterling Canyon?" "Yeah, I haven't lived in it for like 30 years. Why?" He goes, "Well, I want to buy it for you." He goes, "You don't need to buy it, or you can have it. You can burn it down, do whatever you want." Earl got crayons, marked every log, got his cow hands, they drug it down here, got it up, got it under that window, he gets the homestead. So now he's got his man cave, he's in the cattle business, things are going good, right? Well, darn women's got to come in and ruin every darn thing. You know? This was the winter range. The summer range was up on top of the rim, because the winter snows replenished the pasture up there, and it was cooler for the cows, they did better, they'd come down here in the winter. October 1929, they're rounding up cows, and they come across a truck that's broke down with a mother, wife, and 3 daughters in the middle of the wilderness. And they're like, "What the heck are you ladies doing?" Well, like in those days, they didn't have any Amazon, no FedEx or UPS. Broke down, the husband has to walk the flagstaff to get parts to fix the truck. Well, the cowboys said, "Well, we're not going to leave you here, so we're going to hang next to you." We'll all get smitten with one of the daughters. And, you know, there we go. How to build the honeymoon cabin.
There's 2 big idiot trucks coming up, tearing up the road, and hopefully they won't get stuck.
Well, maybe, hopefully they do.
Huh? They're coming down into the gully now,
we
and
won't be able to get out.
they've been having one heck of a time, young guys.
Yeah.
So let's hope
Well, we'll just have to push them out of the way.
we'll do something, won't we?
Yes.
But yeah, they don't know what they're doing. So Earl gets this one rebuilt, and he is able to creep up on
Now, the
it.
funny thing was, she had 4 requirements that she wanted. They did have wood floors that came up to the threshold here. They came in, and it was even with the fireplace hearth here. When they built this cabin, she was from Pennsylvania. So she's coming from back east, a little bit more sophisticated. She wanted wallpaper, which is why these walls are hand hewn. He put cardboard and put the wallpaper on top of it. He had the fireplace hearth. She had hardwood floors and she had glass windows at the front. Now this cabin was built in 1931. They lived in it for several years. They started having a family. Walter Van Duren was born in this cabin. When Walter got of school age, it was about a 2.5-hour ride by horse to get to Sedona to the schoolhouse. That's too much for a little kid. They moved into town. Where you guys checked in, the road that we came out the back on is Jordan Road, named after the Jordan family. The very next road over is Van Duren Street, named after St. Van Duren. And he was a cattle rancher here for many years. They used to make a lot of money out of Hollywood movies. Hollywood shot a lot of westerns. His wife would cook meals for the staff and everybody that's working. They'd act as carpenters, building the sets. They made a lot of extra. Earl used to lease his cows and horses to Hollywood, so they'd have cattle drives and stuff like that to make it, look. So they did whatever they could to make money. They did not have a well here. They got it from the creek bed when it rained. They caught rainwater, and if they got really low, they would go to town with a wagon with big barrels and fill up water. It's pretty cool, huh?
Very cool.
Very cool.
Very cool.
What I always like about it is, these old timers, they used to everything.
And they move into
We have so easy. Our ancestors, it's tough old birds. They wait for them. They could get by. Our grandparents.
So Earl cuts these logs and prepares to build this addition. At that point, this little cabin becomes the kitchen. Has a little wood stove side porch. This one,
Look at that, Kevin going right for the golf course.
Nice walk behind through here, you see all kinds of stuff.
This right here, this is the driving range to practice pitching greens and the putting greens. That building there is the pro shop for the driving range.
I was reading about this somewhere.
It was like a lot of these private golf courses, they were selling memberships $250,000 plus the monthly maintenance fees.
Yeah.
A lot of them, they go broke.
Yep.
And Enchantment Resort runs it. You can golf this. I think it's about $200 for a round of golf. In 2005, and I think it was Golf Digest, it was voted one of the top 10 most beautiful courses in the world. I mean, it is a great course. People have homes out here. The golf course goes kind of out in this direction, back all through those trees and the hills. But it is an absolutely gorgeous course.
But this is considered Sedona, right here? This is
Well, we're
still
outside
Sedona?
the city limits.
Yeah,
But
okay.
it's still considered Sedona.
I know.
Has a Sedona address
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
okay.
Stay right here. I'll see if I can't get a souvenir here.
The golf ball was probably changed.
Well, if it's the driving range.
Oh, you can see balls right here. That's
Yeah.
what he's looking for right now. Probably.